Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive.
Oh.
So today we're taking a deep dive into a topic that you specifically requested.
Oh.
Yeah, African medicinal plants for wound healing.
Okay.
And you sent over this 2016 scientific review from the Journal of Ethnopharmacology.
Mm-hmm.
And it is packed with research.
I bet.
And it's amazing because we were just talking before the show about how chronic wounds affect almost 6 million people.
Wow.
Globally.
That's a lot.
Yeah. It's a huge problem.
Yeah.
And, it makes you wonder, could some of the answers be found in the incredible biodiversity of Africa?
That's a fascinating question. And what's really interesting about this review is that it doesn't just list plants that have been used traditionally.
Right.
It focuses on ones that have been scientifically validated in the past 25 years.
Oh, wow.
So we're talking about a continent with something like 40,000 to 45,000 plant species.
Wow.
And about 5,000 of those are used medicinally.
That's mind-boggling. It's like a whole continent's worth of potential remedies just waiting to be discovered.
It is.
So before we get lost in this jungle of plants, can you give us a quick breakdown of how wound healing actually works?
Yeah.
From a scientific perspective?
Sure. So it's a complex process, but it has 4 main stages.
Okay.
So first, there's hemostasis.
Okay.
That's where the bleeding stops.
Right.
Then comes inflammation. That's when the body's sending in its first responders to clean up the wound site.
Okay, so it's like sending in the paramedics after an accident.
Exactly.
What happens next?
Then it's proliferation.
Okay.
That's when the new tissue starts to form.
So you can think of that as rebuilding the damaged area.
Yeah.
Oh.
And finally, there's maturation,
Okay.
where that new tissue kind of strengthens and remodels itself.
Wow, so the body basically has its own built-in repair crew.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
It is.
So where do these African medicinal plants fit into all this?
Well, the review shows that these plants can actually enhance different stages of wound healing.
Oh, wow.
So some help to speed up wound closure.
Okay.
Others boost collagen production, which is essential for strong, healthy skin.
Yeah.
One study actually found that aloe vera gel increased wound closure rates by 25%.
Wow.
Compared to a control group.
Okay, you said aloe vera.
Yeah.
Now, that's a plant I actually recognize.
Of course.
But I'm guessing there are some lesser-known plants with even more surprising properties.
Absolutely.
What really stood out to you from the research?
So take Kigelia africana, for example.
Okay.
Which is more commonly known as the sausage tree.
You had me at sausage tree.
Aha!
I'm picturing a tree decorated with giant sausages.
You're not far off. It gets its name from its large sausage-shaped fruits.
Okay.
And traditionally, it's been used for all sorts of skin ailments, burns, and wounds. And studies have shown that extracts from the sausage tree have antimicrobial properties.
So they help prevent infection, which I'm guessing is a major problem when it comes to wounds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's even evidence suggesting that it can actually stimulate the growth of new tissue.
Oh, wow.
So speeding up that rebuilding phase.
Amazing. It's like something straight out of a nature documentary, but with real scientific backing.
Oh, no.
Okay, so we've got aloe vera and the sausage tree. What other plant powerhouses did you find in this review?
Another one that caught my eye was Bulbine frutescens.
Okay.
It's a succulent plant, and it has this gel-like sap that's traditionally used for all sorts of skin issues. Burns, cuts, rashes, you name it.
Yeah.
And the review highlighted research showing that it has both antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties.
So it's like a multi-purpose tool.
Yes.
For wound care.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got these incredible plants.
Yeah.
With a long history of use. And now science is starting to back up their healing power.
Yeah.
But how exactly do researchers go about validating these traditional claims?
Well, they use a combination of what we call in vivo and in vitro studies.
Okay, I think it would help our listener if we broke that down a little.
Sure.
What exactly does in vivo mean?
So in vivo means testing on living organisms.
Okay.
So for example, with the research on Kigelia africana, researchers tested its extract on wounds in mice.
Okay.
And they found that it significantly reduced wound size compared to a control group.
So they're seeing how these plants actually perform in a real living system. And what about in vitro?
So in vitro studies are done in a more controlled environment.
Okay.
Like a test tube or a petri dish.
Got it.
They allow researchers to really zoom in on specific cells or molecules and see how they respond to the plant extracts.
So it's like getting a close-up view of how these plant compounds interact with the body's own processes.
Exactly.
Did the review find a lot of support for these African medicinal plants?
Yeah.
Overall?
Yes, definitely. So the review highlighted numerous studies showing how these plants can actually accelerate wound healing. And they looked at factors like, you know how quickly wounds closed, the strength of the new tissue, antimicrobial activity, and collagen production.
It's incredible to think that we're just starting to uncover the scientific basis for these traditional remedies.
It is.
But I imagine there are still some challenges ahead.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we can't just pluck these plants out of the ground and start making miracle cures.
Oh, absolutely not.
So what are some of those challenges?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is actually isolating and characterizing the specific bioactive compounds that are responsible for these wound healing effects.
So it's about pinpointing the exact molecules within these complex plant mixtures that are doing the heavy lifting.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
Another challenge, I imagine, is translating these findings into safe and effective treatments that people can actually use.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Right.
So, there are ethical considerations, sustainability issues, and, of course, the need for rigorous scientific testing.
This is also fascinating. We've gone from the global impact of wounds to Africa's incredible plant diversity, delved into the science of wound healing, and even got a glimpse of the challenges ahead.
Yeah.
It feels like we've just scratched the surface.
It does.
But I think it's a good time to pause and let all this information sink in.
Okay.
We'll be back shortly to continue exploring the potential of African medicinal plants for wound healing.
Sounds good.
It's amazing to think about these plants thriving in Africa.
Yeah.
Maybe holding the key to better wound care. But I also keep thinking about those challenges you mentioned.
Yeah.
How do we actually get from these promising lab results to treatments that people can use?
That's the big question, isn't it? And one crucial aspect of this is making sure that any potential treatments are accessible and affordable.
Okay.
Particularly in the regions where these plants are found and this traditional knowledge originated.
It makes sense to prioritize those communities, especially considering their history and deep understanding of these plants.
Yeah.
But how do we actually ensure that those benefits reach the people who need them?
Well, it starts with recognizing that traditional knowledge itself has immense value. And, we need to kind of move away from a model where this knowledge is simply extracted and commercialized without fair compensation or acknowledgement.
So it's about establishing equitable partnerships, not just taking what we want and running.
Exactly. It's about respect, collaboration, and ensuring that any commercial development actually benefits those communities who've been stewards of this knowledge for generations. And this means involving them in the research process, obtaining informed consent, and establishing benefit sharing agreements.
Those sound like some pretty complex negotiations.
Yeah.
What would those benefit sharing agreements look like in practice?
Well, they can take various forms.
Okay.
It could involve sharing a portion of any profits generated from new treatments, investing in community development projects, or supporting efforts to preserve and pass down traditional knowledge to future generations.
So it's not just about money. It's about empowering communities and ensuring the sustainability of their cultural heritage.
Precisely. And, beyond the ethical aspects, this collaborative approach can actually lead to better science.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because by working closely with communities and incorporating their knowledge, researchers can gain deeper insights into plant properties, traditional uses, and even potential risks or contraindications.
It's like having a team of expert consultants who've been studying these plants for centuries.
Yeah.
Their insights could save researchers a lot of time and effort.
A lot.
But even with the best intentions, I imagine it's tricky to navigate these collaborations.
Oh, for sure.
It's not always easy to bridge the gap between traditional knowledge systems and the world of scientific research.
That's true, and it requires sensitivity, open communication, and a willingness to learn from each other. It's about finding a common language that respects both the scientific method and the cultural context of traditional knowledge.
Okay, so let's say we get those collaborations, right?
Okay.
What happens next? How do we go from identifying promising plant compounds to actually developing treatments?
Well, the next step involves rigorous scientific testing.
Okay.
So this could involve preclinical studies where plant extracts are tested in the lab and on animal models to assess their safety and effectiveness.
So it's back to the lab, but this time armed with insights from traditional knowledge.
Exactly. And if those preclinical studies show promising results, Then researchers can move on to clinical trials, which involve testing the treatments on human volunteers.
And those clinical trials are crucial for getting a treatment approved right.
They are.
They help ensure safety and efficacy.
Precisely. Clinical trials are a multi-stage process, gradually increasing the number of participants and monitoring for any potential side effects. It's a very rigorous process, but it's essential for ensuring that any new treatment is safe and effective before it becomes widely available.
So it's a long road from the African savanna to the pharmacy shelf.
Yeah.
But potentially a very rewarding one.
Very.
And I'm curious about something.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about specific plants and their properties. Can you give us a broader sense of how these plants are traditionally used for wound healing? What kinds of preparations or applications are common?
Sure. It varies depending on the plant and the type of wound.
Okay.
But there are some common themes.
Okay.
So you'll see plants crushed and applied as poultices, sometimes mixed with other ingredients like honey or animal fat. Others are boiled to create decoctions for washing wounds or soothing inflamed skin.
Okay.
Some are even incorporated into dressings to promote healing and prevent infection.
It sounds like a blend of art and science.
It is.
Passed down through generations.
Exactly. And, studying these traditional practices can actually provide valuable clues for researchers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because by understanding how these plants are traditionally used, they can get a better sense of potential mechanisms of action dosage ranges, and even possible combinations of plants that might work synergistically.
It's like having a recipe book passed down through centuries, each recipe honed and refined based on experience.
That's a great analogy, and just like a recipe book, traditional knowledge offers a wealth of information waiting to be explored.
It's been incredible to delve into this world of African medicinal plants.
Yeah, it has.
It feels like we've uncovered so much, from the scientific basis of wound healing to the intricacies of ethical collaboration and the fascinating world of traditional practices. But with all this talk about the future of wound care, I think it's important to take a moment to appreciate how complex the human body actually is.
You're absolutely right. Wound healing is a remarkable process.
Yeah.
We've touched upon the 4 stages, but it's worth emphasizing how intricate each stage really is. It's an incredible cascade of events orchestrated by our bodies to repair and regenerate damaged tissue.
It's like an army of tiny workers, each with a specific job to do.
I like that.
All working together to get the body back on track.
Yeah.
And these African medicinal plants, with their diverse array of compounds, have the potential to support and even enhance this intricate healing process.
They do.
It's like giving those tiny workers an extra boost, providing them with the tools they need to do their jobs even better.
Exactly. By understanding how these plant compounds interact with the body's own healing mechanisms, we can develop more targeted and effective treatments.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities.
It is.
But I also know that research takes time, and there are still many challenges to overcome.
Oh, yeah.
Before we get too carried away with the future, I think it's important to acknowledge the present.
I agree. And on that note, I think it's a good time to pause and reflect on what we've learned so far.
Okay.
We'll be back shortly to continue exploring the potential of African medicinal plants for wound healing.
Sounds good. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the science of wound healing to the potential of African medicinal plants.
Yeah.
The importance of ethical collaboration. It's clear that there's a lot of excitement surrounding this field.
Definitely.
But also a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
So as researchers kind of move forward, what are some of the key things that they need to focus on?
Well, one crucial area is standardization. Because traditional remedies often vary in their preparation and their dosage, which can make it difficult to study their effects scientifically.
So it's like trying to bake a cake without a recipe.
Exactly.
You might end up with something delicious.
Right.
But you can't guarantee that you'll get the same results every time.
That's right.
Yeah.
So researchers need to develop standardized extracts and dosages that can be reliably tested and compared across different studies.
That makes sense.
And this involves identifying the specific compounds responsible for the wound healing effects and figuring out the optimal concentrations for therapeutic use.
So it's about bringing scientific rigor to traditional knowledge.
It is.
What other challenges come to mind?
Another big challenge is ensuring the long-term sustainability of these plants.
Yeah.
We don't want to see over-harvesting or habitat destruction in the pursuit of new treatments.
Right. We need to make sure we're not creating a new problem while trying to solve another one.
Exactly. So sustainable harvesting practices and cultivation methods are essential.
Okay.
This might involve working with local communities to establish, sustainable harvesting protocols, or even exploring the possibility of cultivating these plants commercially to reduce pressure on wild populations.
So it sounds like a multi-pronged approach is needed.
It does.
Involving conservation, community engagement, and scientific research.
Absolutely. It's about finding a balance between harnessing the potential of these plants while ensuring their long-term survival for future generations.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, but let's shift gears for a moment.
Okay.
And imagine a future where these challenges have been overcome.
Right.
What could wound care look like in a world where African medicinal plants are fully integrated into modern medicine?
Oh, it's an exciting vision.
Yeah.
We might see a whole new generation of wound care products based on these plants. Perhaps even personalized treatments tailored to specific needs and skin types.
So instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, we could have treatments that are specifically designed for different types of wounds.
Right.
Different stages of healing, and even different individual responses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We might even see these plant-based treatments being used proactively to prevent wounds in high-risk individuals, like those with diabetes or poor circulation.
It's incredible to think about the potential impact, especially for people who suffer from chronic wounds that are difficult to heal with conventional treatments.
I know, and these plants offer a whole new arsenal of tools for wound care, potentially leading to faster healing, reduced scarring, and a better quality of life for millions of people.
Yeah.
And who knows? We may even discover new applications beyond wound healing, perhaps in areas like skincare, anti-aging, or even treating other conditions.
It feels like we're on the cusp of a whole new era of plant-based medicine with African medicinal plants leading the way.
It really does.
It's a truly exciting time to be in this field. And, as we wrap up this deep dive, I keep coming back to the power of collaboration.
Yeah.
Bringing together traditional knowledge holders, scientists, conservationists, and healthcare professionals is essential for realizing the full potential of these plants.
I couldn't agree more.
It's about weaving together these different strands of knowledge and expertise to create a tapestry of healing that benefits everyone.
Absolutely.
I don't know about you, but I feel incredibly inspired after this deep dive.
Same here.
It's amazing to think that these plants growing in diverse ecosystems across Africa may hold the key to unlocking new and better ways to heal.
It's a powerful reminder of the interconnectedness of nature, human health, and cultural heritage.
And it leaves me feeling very hopeful about the future of wound care and the potential for these plants to make a real difference in the world. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the fascinating world of African medicinal plants for wound healing. Until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.